One order, 4 words, and suddenly the entire war turned on its head. June 6, 1944, D-Day. The largest amphibious invasion in history is about to begin, but there's a problem. The weather is brutal. Storms are battering the English Channel. Eisenhower's meteorologists are saying conditions are the worst they've seen in decades. Every single general in the room is watching him. 150,000 men are waiting. Thousands of ships, planes, and tanks are ready. The fate of the free world hangs in the balance. And Dwight D. Eisenhower has to make a decision that could win the war or slaughter an entire generation. His top advisors are split. Montgomery says wait, the conditions are too dangerous. Tedder agrees, but the intelligence reports show a tiny weather window opening up. Maybe 36 hours. Maybe less. If they postpone again, the tides won't be right for another month. And by then, the Germans might discover the entire plan. Here's what's at stake. If Eisenhower gives the green light and the weather turns, thousands of paratroopers could drown in their chutes. Landing craft could capsize. The beaches could become killing zones with no air support. It would be the greatest military disaster in American history, and he would be responsible for every single death. But if he waits, Hitler gets more time to fortify the Atlantic Wall, more time to move panzer divisions, more time to prepare for exactly where the Allies are coming. The Soviets are screaming for a second front. Every day of delay cost thousands of Russian lives on the Eastern Front. Eisenhower steps outside. He's chain-smoking, pacing. The weight of the world is literally on his shoulders. He's already written 2 letters, one announcing victory, one taking full responsibility for failure. That second letter is in his pocket right now, already written, already signed. Let's rewind for a second. How did we even get here? 3 years earlier, in 1941, Eisenhower was a lieutenant colonel. Barely anyone knew his name. He'd never commanded troops in combat, never led a major operation. He was a staff officer, a planner, good with logistics, good with people, but untested. Then Pearl Harbor happened. America entered the war. And General George Marshall saw something in Eisenhower that others missed. Not just intelligence, not just competence, but the ability to unite people, to make rivals work together, to keep massive egos from destroying the Allied coalition. By 1943, Eisenhower was Supreme Commander of Allied forces in Europe. He'd overseen North Africa, Sicily, Italy. He'd learned how to manage Churchill's temper, how to handle de Gaulle's pride, how to balance American ambition with British caution. And now, everything he'd learned was about to be tested. Operation Overlord had been in the works for over a year. Thousands of planners, millions of details, fake armies created to deceive the Germans, dummy tanks, false radio transmissions, an entire phantom force supposedly gathering near Calais. The real invasion would hit Normandy. 5 beaches, code names, Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, Sword. But planning is one thing, execution is another. The invasion required perfect timing, the right tides, the right moon phase for paratroopers, the right weather for air support. Everything had to align, and in early June 1944, nothing was aligning. June 5th was supposed to be D-Day, the original date. But on June 4th, the weather was so bad that Eisenhower had no choice. He postponed. 24 hours. The ships turned back. The men stayed in their bunks, and everyone wondered, is this mission cursed? Then his chief meteorologist, Group Captain Stagg, brings news. There's a break coming, not perfect, not even good, but possible. The storm will pause for maybe 24 hours, maybe 36. After that, it's anyone's guess. The next weather window after that, weeks away, and the tides wouldn't be right again until July. The wait. 5/20. Think about what Eisenhower is carrying. This isn't just about military strategy. It's about the entire post-war world. If D-Day fails, the Soviets might make a separate peace with Hitler, or they might conquer all of Europe themselves. Britain might collapse under the weight of the war. America might turn isolationist again. The whole vision of a free, democratic Europe could die before it's even born. The meeting, 5:50. June 5th, 4 a.m., Southwick House. The final weather conference. Eisenhower calls his top commanders together one more time. Admiral Ramsey, Air Chief Marshal Lee Mallory, General Montgomery, his deputy, Air Chief Marshal Tedder, and his Chief of Staff, Walter Bedell Smith. The debate. Lee Mallory is worried about the airborne assault. If the winds are too strong, the paratroopers will be scattered all over Normandy. They'll be isolated, cut off, slaughtered. He recommends calling off the airborne operation entirely. Just hit the beaches. But without paratroopers securing the flanks and inland routes, the beach landings could be trapped, pinned down, annihilated. Montgomery, surprisingly, is in favor of going. He's usually cautious, methodical, but he sees the same thing Eisenhower sees. The Germans aren't expecting an attack in this weather. Surprise is worth more than perfect conditions. Ramsey, the naval commander, says the fleet can handle it. Barely, but they can do it. Tedder is silent. He doesn't like it. Too many variables, too much risk. But he won't oppose Eisenhower if he decides to go. Bedell Smith is crunching the numbers. Casualties, supply lines, contingencies. His face says it all. This is going to be brutal. The moment, 7:30, Eisenhower looks at his commanders. Churchill has given him full authority. Whatever he decides, it's his call alone. No one can make this choice for him. He could convene another meeting, ask for more data, wait for better conditions. But every instinct he has is screaming that the moment is now. The decision, 7:52. The room goes silent, and then he speaks. Okay, we'll go. 4 words. That's it. The biggest decision of World War II. Maybe the biggest military decision of the 20th century. 4 words. No dramatics, no speeches. Just a calm, firm decision. And everyone in that room knows history just pivoted. Within the mobilization, 8:15. Within hours, the machine is in motion. 156,000 men are boarding ships. 11,000 aircraft are preparing to fly. 6,900 naval vessels are heading into the storm. Paratroopers are strapping on their chutes. Medics are loading supplies. Chaplains are holding services. And there's no turning back now. The human element, 8:40. But here's what makes Eisenhower different from other commanders. He doesn't just issue the order and walk away. On the evening of June 5th, he visits the 101st Airborne. These men are about to jump into darkness behind enemy lines. Their survival rate is maybe 50-50. Some units will be lucky to see 20% make it through. He walks among them, talks to them, asks where they're from, makes jokes. One soldier tells him, "Don't worry, General, we'll take care of this." Eisenhower laughs, but inside he's dying, because he knows the odds. He knows what he's asking these kids to do, and he knows some of them won't see sunrise. After they leave, his driver, Kay Summersby, sees him, standing alone in the darkness, watching the planes disappear into the night sky, and tears are streaming down his face, because that's the burden of command. That's what leadership actually looks like. It's not glory. It's not speeches. It's knowing you made a choice that will save thousands by sacrificing hundreds. The jump, 9:58. Meanwhile, over Normandy, the paratroopers are jumping. The winds are worse than expected. Men are scattered across miles of French countryside. Some land in flooded fields and drown under the weight of their equipment. Others land in trees and are picked off by German snipers. But enough land safely. Enough to start causing chaos behind German lines. The German confusion, 10:25. Here's the genius of Eisenhower's choice. The Germans thought the same thing he worried about. Hitler's meteorologists looked at the same storm and said, "No way the Allies are coming in this weather." Rommel, the commander of German forces in France, actually went home to Germany to celebrate his wife's birthday. He thought he had time. The Atlantic Wall's defenses were undermanned. The panzer divisions that could have crushed the invasion were held back because Hitler was convinced the real attack would come at Calais. The fake army, the phantom invasion force, The deception had worked, and now the real assault was about to begin. June 6, 1944, 6:30 a.m., the naval bombardment begins. Thousands of shells rain down on the German fortifications. The noise is deafening. The sky is on fire. And then the landing craft hit the water, heading for the beaches, heading into history. The beaches, 11:35. Utah Beach goes relatively well. The current pushes the landing craft off target, but they hit a less defended section. Casualties are light. The men push inland. Juno and Gold, hit by Canadians and British, face fierce resistance, but establish footholds. Sword Beach, the easternmost, links up with British airborne forces. Omaha, 12. But Omaha Beach is hell. The intelligence was wrong. The naval bombardment missed most of the German fortifications. The beach is a killing zone. Machine guns and concrete bunkers, artillery on the cliffs, barbed wire, mines, and nowhere to hide. Men are cut down before they even leave the landing craft. The crisis, 12:25. For 2 hours, it looks like Omaha might fail. Officers are killed. Units are pinned down. Some men are just lying in the surf, paralyzed by fear. Back in England, reports are coming in. Omaha, in serious trouble. Heavy casualties. May need to evacuate. And Eisenhower is reading every single report. But then, something shifts. Small groups of men, led by junior officers and NCOs, start moving. Not because of orders, because they realize staying on the beach means death. They blow gaps in the wire. They take out bunkers one by one. By sheer guts and determination, they claw their way off that beach. The foothold. 13:15. By nightfall, the Allies have a foothold. Not as deep as planned, not as secure as hoped, but they're there, on French soil. And the liberation of Europe has begun. 12,000 Allied casualties on D-Day alone. But Eisenhower's gamble worked. The alternative history, 1340. If he had waited, military historians believe the war could have dragged on for years. Germany might have developed atomic weapons. The Soviet Union might have conquered all of Europe. The Cold War might have been hot. The world we live in today might look completely different, all because one man had the courage to say 4 words. The letter, 1408. Remember that letter in his pocket? The one taking full responsibility for failure? It said, "Our landings have failed, and I have withdrawn the troops. My decision to attack at this time and place was based on the best information available. The troops, the air, and the Navy did all that bravery and devotion to duty could do. If any blame or fault attaches to the attempt, it is mine alone." He never had to send it, but he kept it for the rest of his life, a reminder that every great decision is a gamble. Every victory is built on courage, and sometimes the difference between disaster and triumph is nothing more than 4 words and the will to say them. Eisenhower's choice teaches us something crucial. In the moments that matter most, you rarely have perfect information. You'll never have certainty. The storm will always be raging, and the weight of the decision will always feel crushing. But leadership isn't about waiting for perfect conditions. It's about assessing the risks, trusting your judgment, and having the courage to say, "Okay, we'll go," when everyone else is paralyzed by fear. It's about knowing you might be wrong, knowing the cost of being wrong, and deciding to act anyway. Because here's the thing about leadership. Inaction is also a choice. Waiting is also a decision. And sometimes, the safest seeming option is actually the most dangerous one. Eisenhower understood that. He understood that perfect moments don't exist. You create them by having the courage to act. We face these moments too. Not on the scale of D-Day, but in our lives, our careers, our relationships. We encounter crossroads where we have to choose. Where the information is incomplete, where the risks are real, where failure could be devastating. And we have to decide, do we wait for perfect conditions that may never come? Or do we say, "Okay, we'll go"? Eisenhower wasn't fearless. He was terrified. The tears on his face that night proved it. But courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite the fear. It's making the call when the call needs to be made. It's accepting responsibility for the outcome, whatever it might be. One choice, one moment that changed the course of human history. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is make the call when no one else will. Sometimes the difference between victory and defeat is just the willingness to step into the unknown. That's the power of decisive leadership. And that's why D-Day will be remembered forever, not just for what was won, but for the courage it took to even try. 4 words. Okay, we'll go. The 4 words that saved the world.